we're thinking we're going to see, maybe a broken leg or nothing could have prepared us for what came out of that room. The doctor comes and he says, we need to speak to you and the dad. And so we go into the room, me, him, and his dad. And he says, listen, Zaire has 3 skull fractures. He has all his facial bones are fractured or shattered. He has fluid leaking from his brain. It's coming, and blood out of his ears and his nose. He said his lungs, they're not working. We can't get him to sustain breath on his own. He said, and it looks like there's swelling of the brain. He said, I'm afraid that he may not make it through the night.
We were unsure how bad the injuries were when he first came up, but what was clear to us was his lungs were not working. On that night, I left the operating room and I got on an elevator and I saw a woman on the elevator who looked fairly distraught.
And I'm on the elevator and I got nothing left. I got no other, I just, only thing I have is what they're telling me. And this doctor gets on the elevator.
The woman looked at me a little puzzled and asked me if I was the person that was going upstairs to save her baby.
And I said, I need you to save my son's life. And he looked at me. I will never forget the look he gave me like that. He did not expect me to say that to him.
At that moment, I put 2 and 2 together and I understood that this was clearly the mother of the child up in our pediatric intensive care unit, at which time I sort of put it all together that I had the skill set to do it, and although it wasn't where I was going, I thought it might be wise to go up and take a look.
And he says, I'm looking to things. And he walks towards the room where my son is.
That's when I met the patient and talked with our pediatric intensive care unit attendings who had done about as much as they could. They were taking wonderful care of the patient, but still his oxygenation numbers were not consistent with life. I sort of made a few phone calls to figure out what was the plan and who was where to be able to take care of this child, and it became clear through the pediatric intensive care unit attendings and myself that we had a limited amount of time to do something to save his life.
And I'm saying, fight, baby, fight. And then the doctor comes in and he taps me on my shoulders. I turn around and I look at him. He says, you remember me? And I smile because no one else knows. So I said, yeah, I remember you. You're the one from the elevator. And he said, I came to do what you asked me to do. So I was like, I was so happy in that second because there was no hope in that room. It was just my faith. And so I'm like, okay, well, what do we need to talk? He's like, come out here. So he tells me, again, everything that's wrong with Zaire, he runs it down. He said, in time, all this stuff can heal itself or be fixed. He said, but we can't do anything if we can't get him to breathe.
So we made a decision to put him on a lung bypass system called ECMO, which is a system that pulls blood out of the body, oxygenates it outside of the body, and puts it back in.
Together we made the decision and placed him on this machine.
He said, if we do that, we may be able to sustain your son. He said, now, I need to let you know that if you make this decision to allow me to do this, there is a risk of death. He said, but if we don't do it, he will surely die before the night's over. So it wasn't a whole lot to it. Where do I sign? Where's the paper at?
He was a kid who was going to die, and he's now acting absolutely normally. So it's wonderful to see.
Oh, there's the plane. Wow.
Fire alarms started going off. They stopped, and I went out in the hallway. Then they cut off, And then I went to go back in to go shower, and then all of a sudden I just heard banging and people screaming to get out of the building. And I just put on shorts again. I was getting ready to go bathe and ran and fell down the stairs. And I can't believe I'm sitting here watching like 80,000 gallons of water being pumped into my living room right now. Sorry.
We got here and there's not what to do. I mean, I'm sitting here watching $20,000 that my NASCAR Earnhardt Jr. and Senior go up. Everything I've worked my ass off for is gone. I've lost everything. I don't have anything left.
I literally have what I have on me right now. That's it.
To know that everyone is safe.
That means a lot. It does. It honestly does. But it just sucks. I know it's a material item, and I know we can pick it up and we'll get back on our feet somehow, but it's not going to be easy. I've struggled my whole life, and now this is gone.
At least you guys are safe and got out alive.
Can you believe it's been 30 years since you did this play?
Yeah, just time flies when you're having fun.
I always called it the shot heard around the world.
In 1988, college lacrosse had its big bang moment. In an NCAA semifinal against Penn, Syracuse's Gary Gait did something that had never been seen before. Air Gait, the play that changed everything, was born.
All right, so just coming from behind, defender here, kind of the other zone defender up on that side, and by coming directly to the back of the net, it left space because the defenders kind of waited on the corners. So coming from here, just kind of come along, big jump, and dunk.
The Air Gait stunned the Quakers and electrified the Carrier Dome crowd, but it didn't come out of nowhere. Gary was just waiting for the right moment to strike. Then there was this question. Was he even allowed to do the Air Gait?
So what happened was at practice before the semifinals, we were out at practice, I think it was a Wednesday, and all of a sudden he tries this move. And I remember going, holy cow, and I looked at Kevin Donahue and I said, Kevin, is that legal? And Kevin's the assistant coach, and he looked at me, he goes, we'll find out Saturday, like that, and sure enough, the rest is history.
Gary was talking about it, doing it. So when he finally did it, obviously it was just, at first you were like, holy cow, he did it and he made it. And, just the reaction of the crowd and just the players, it's just tons of excitement. It was awesome.
It was amazing to see the people in the dome all turn their heads to the monitor to see it replayed, because they didn't catch it the first time. A lot of people figure, well, what the hell is that,
Well, the game stops, and the officials go over to the NCAA bench, and they're sitting there for about a minute, talking it over, and then the head official turns around, goes out onto the field, and goes, good goal, like that. And of course, the place erupts.
The Air Gait wasn't just a play. It was a movement. It was banned from the sport and eventually brought back. It inspired thousands of kids to pick up a lacrosse stick and play the game. It even inspired its own beer.
Well, I know what it's done for me. It was a launch pad to a life of lacrosse.
It kind of opened our minds up, to things that, here are the fundamentals of lacrosse and here how it's been coached forever this particular way. And to turn around and change our thinking that, hey, there's another answer here.
Is this going to be your legacy, this play? Is this what you're going to be best known for?
There's no question that anybody that was around in that era remembers it, and I certainly will never forget it.
Amy to John.
My story begins when I was much younger. My parents were both addicts. The drug world and that lifestyle I was pretty much accustomed to. What led me to start doing drugs was being around the wrong people, having it around me. It was my way to escape. I was very heavy into heroin. I was doing a lot. And I had gotten pulled over with a large amount of it on me.
You know, when Amy came in, she was so down on herself, you know, and you could see that she was a good person, and this wasn't really the road that she wanted to go down. She felt like she had disappointed so many people.
I came in and I had 3 more felonies and a misdemeanor while on felony probation. I thought I was going upstate for sure. And I just sat there detoxing in that cell, like, how did I get here, you know? Mm-hmm. And you just start thinking about the past 4 years and just how bad everything was going and everything you were doing and just the chaos of the lifestyle and trying to maintain a normal one at the same time. And it was just, it's like living 2 different lives, but at the same time, you're trying to beat the sickness every single hour of the day.
It's an expensive habit. We did the math on how much we were using daily, and we multiplied it for the year, and I had spent $106,000. I could have bought a house in a nice neighborhood.
I got the Vivitrol shot 4 days before I was released, and from here I went right to outpatient, and I'm still currently going.
So it's a complete blocker at the opioid receptor in the brain. So it blocks the opioid receptor, so it should help with cravings. And if somebody does use, it blocks the effect that the opioid you would normally get. And it lasts for a month.
I don't have cravings.
You don't have any cravings?
I really don't have cravings. When I first came home, there was a couple here and there, and I just had to fight through them, you know. They don't last long, and you just got to get back to the reality of what's going to happen if you do relapse. So, I mean, Vivitrol shot's not going to fix everything for you, but with the right mindset and the right support system, you're going to be perfectly fine on it.
You know, hanging around with the old people, going back to the old places and doing the same old things, those are big triggers for relapse.
I've had to let go of so many people. Everybody from all my friends from the past, they were toxic. They're no good for me. You know, a lot of them are still out there getting high. It's a sad situation, but you have to be selfish in this program, and you have to put you first.
I feel like my strongest support right now and the biggest motivation that I have is my kids, and I see the damage that I've caused on them and the family. They'll always be there for me, so I owe it to them to make this part of our life and our future. Now, everybody from Meerman that I associated with is dead or in jail in the course of 8 months. That's how fast it all ends. The thing is, if people were out in the open, they would recognize my car. Yeah. That's how bad it is. Like, they would recognize me, recognize my car, ask me where I've been. For me to be able to drive through that area the way I did and feel nothing inside, that's a amazing thing, because like before that would have just completely triggered me. I'm really just working on helping as many people as I can at this point. So I feel like as hard as it was for me to put my story out there and to finally admit, like, yeah, I was a heroin addict, it's really helping people.
I've been clean for 16 months now, so over the course of time from my initial shot in January until July, and the help of treatment and just recorrecting my way of thinking and way of doing things, I definitely was successful. My new focus is cosmetology school, so I'm really excited for the future, and everything I'm working towards is just nothing but positive things, and this is what I should have been doing for the past, 5-6 years. But I was so caught up in that lifestyle and everything that I was doing wrong. So now I'm just correcting, and I'm trying to pretty much catch up with the time that I lost, for one, and just really reach the goals that I have set for myself.
So Amy, then you understand what we're doing is we're going to be able to dismiss all the charges as having been satisfied by your entry into a plea to 1 count of violating CPCS and 7th degree a misdemeanor. Do you understand that? Yes. All right. And all of this is a recognition of the hard work you have done. And of course, the hard work you must do for the rest of your life, given the challenges you face.
Thank you, Scott. I will.
Tell your mom I said hello.
I will. I'm going to continue to keep doing good. It's just like I feel like I'm beginning my life all over again. It's a great feeling. The withdrawal completely erased my cravings like this alone. I'm graduating college. I have 5 job offers. Can't say now, after everything I've been through, I'm genuinely happy, and I have so many people to thank.
If you live in a home built before 1980, there's a good chance you and your loved ones might be exposed to dangerous amounts of lead. This metal was used in everything extensively from paint, tiles, pipes, including bathtubs. This neurotoxin can accumulate in your body over time, causing severe health problems and death. We asked an expert in lead abatement to show us all the places lead can hide in your home. Let's go talk to him.
The lead dust on the floor here is really high. So when you walk out of here, make sure that you're, either change your shoes or clean them off from the bottom. Deteriorated paint will cause dust, which then settles on the floors and horizontal surfaces where children are likely to come across it. And, they're hand to mouth with everything. That's how they take it in. This is classic pattern for deteriorated lead paint. Now, we can't say for sure without testing it, but when you see it breaking on straight lines, sometimes it looks like, we call it alligator skin. Anywhere here we're going to have friction and impact, and that's going to create dust. And so then we would use our lead tester to take a test. According to EPA and HUD, the threshold for lead-based paint is 1.0 milligram per centimeter squared, or 0.5% by weight. And we find out there, now we're more than 20 times level of what's considered massive amounts of lead. We found when we did our testing that all the plaster walls throughout this room were coated with lead-based paint. There really isn't any safe level of lead in the paint. Any lead is dangerous. It erases IQ points. It eliminates intelligence, which we can't undo once it happens. If you're going to renovate your bathroom and you intend to get rid of a bathtub like this to get a more modern tub, you want to make sure that the contractor is going to be very careful taking this tub out. They use lead in the glaze because they could fire the furnace at a lower temperature to solidify this porcelain. We don't often find all the walls to be lead-based paint. We find it in the trims, and we find it in areas in a home where there's moisture, like kitchens and baths. And this bath ceiling right here, you can see what the humidity in the space has done to the coat of paint that's there.
Other sources of lead contamination can include fireplace tiles and your soil, either by decomposing paint chips or surprisingly absorbing decades of leaded gasoline emissions from cars, zooming by your home before 1995 when it was banned from use, making your property dangerous even now.
The concerns besides the paint and the dust and the other things we talked about is lead in the water. It's very common in the city of Syracuse to find old water service lines, and you can identify them because they look just like this one over here. This is nice and smooth, and this bulb right here where they made the joint, the connection to the meter, when it's rounded like that, it is almost certainly lead. The thing about this, there's 400,000 kids in the US today with elevated blood lead levels, and not a single one had to happen. Every single one could be prevented.
When the tariffs went in place, we actually had our first shipment on the water. And to get from New York to Shanghai is about 32 days. So we were able to clear the goods before the tariffs hit, but there wasn't a repeat order because the tariffs basically made our product uncompetitive.
Cayuga Milk Ingredients mostly produces powdered dairy products for use in baby formula, protein powders, and ingredients for a variety of other food items worldwide.
We process about 260,000 gallons of milk daily into ingredients for the worldwide food and nutrition industry. So we're manufacturing 180,000 pounds of milk powder a day.
So why is China so attractive to the New York dairy operation?
The middle class in China is nearly 400 million people now. Compare that to the population in the United States is 300 million. So just the middle class in China is bigger than the US population, so it's a huge market. They don't have enough domestic milk producers to supply their needs, and the infant nutrition market in China has exploded over the last 10 years. You know, we can envision $25 million in sales in China in 2 to 3 years. Today, it's virtually, well, it's zero today.
And trying to bolster domestic sales isn't really an option for Cayuga Milk Ingredients.
We have an advantage when it comes to international freight. At times, it costs us $1,300 to $1,400 per container to go to the Port of New York, New Jersey, from our location here in Auburn. Oftentimes, it's $500 to get it from the Port of New York to Shanghai. You know, some of what we do now isn't as profitable because there's extra freight on it. Maybe we're forced into lower paying markets. So it's not bringing as much value back to the business as it could have. So if we went direct to China, there's more value created there than what we're doing now. So yeah, it's just not as profitable as of a business as it could be.
So where is Kevin refocusing to turn a profit for Cayuga Milk Ingredients?
Today we're in the markets in Malaysia, in Indonesia, the Philippines, trying to market those ingredients as value-added ingredients.
And a setback like this to the market taught Kevin a valuable lesson.
I now have a rule that I will not do any more than 20% of our sales to any one region, country, or customer, because the environment can change quickly, and in a flash of a pan, your business can be gone.
Everyone wants to know, buddy, where are you going to play basketball? They know where my dad coaches, they know where my brother plays, and I've had about 10 schools reach out to me. Bottom line is, I want a really well-rounded school. My dad told me at a young age I could be the best basketball player around. Those words really stuck with me. I've always listened closely to him, worked hard, and pushed everything else out. I want to live up to my dad's passion for the game. I want to play in front of 30,000 screaming fans every home game. I want to win a national championship. To play for my dad would mean everything to me. That's why I'm going to Syracuse.